Hello, Marcos. Thank you
Hello,
so
Abigail.
much for
Thank
coming
you for
on to the.
inviting me.
You're so welcome. It's going to be a really good show. I can just sense it
That's
already.
great.
So, tell me a little bit about yourself, your name, what you do, and a little bit about your story as well.
Okay, well, Marcos Barros. This name is from Brazil. It's a Portuguese surname, but actually, I was born in Brazil, but I've been living here in the UK for a long time now. I'm married with two children and six grandchildren.
Six
And
grandchildren.
yes,
My goodness, that's very, very blessed.
yes, it is. And I work with consultancy. I do consultancy mostly for government, helping them to improve their processes.
Amazing.
That's what I do.
Incredible. And we know that you are the master of OKR.
Wow, wow.
Now, explain to us a little bit about what that entails.
Okay, well, OKRs are short for objectives and key results. It's a set of principles to help you to focus on your most important goals. So that's basically what OKRs are. And they can be used for personal use. I use OKRs a lot for personal use. And they can be used up to like massive organizations, multinationals, companies like Google. Google made OKRs popular, although they were invented by Intel in the 70s.
Wow.
It was Google who recorded a video that's still there on YouTube in 2013,
Oh my God.
telling everyone how they used OKRs. And so they became very famous and they're used today for by organizations of all kinds and sizes.
This might be a silly question, but what's
Uh,
the difference from OKRs to a to-do list? How are they different?
well, great question. Um, when we think of doing something or achieving something, usually the first thing that we do is to do what you said, to build a list of tasks, a to-do list. Or if it is something a bit more complex, like building a house or something, we build a project. So that means a list of tasks with categories, time frames, and responsible resources, and so on. So, uh, but it's basically translating objective into tasks. Now, with OKRs, you introduce something between the objective and the tasks. And this something is the measurement of progress towards achieving your objective.
Let's see.
So, for example, in 2008, I went to the doctor. He said, you have to change everything in your lifestyle. You
Uh-oh.
going towards a heart attack very soon if you don't change your life. So you have to change the way that you eat. You have to change the way that you have to start doing exercises and so on. So what I did, I began to try different things in a random way, and I failed in 95% of them.
Wow.
Now I do the same, but with OKRs. So I just introduced something between my goal of having a better health
Mhm.
and my activities that I may try that can be hundreds, like yoga, going to the gym, muscle building, aerobics, or dieting. And there are 10 different or hundreds of different kinds of dieting. So how do I know if the diet is working or not? How do I know if the exercise is working or not? So I have to measure something.
Yeah.
So then you have just a few criteria. For example, I have three: body fat, percentage of body fat. What else? Muscle mass
Mhm.
and blood pressure. These are my criteria. So you can have others. For example, some people will choose their weight as a criteria. So I have to reduce my weight from X to Y, or I want to reduce my cholesterol or my triglycerides or anything. So
Use
you
food.
choose the measurements that you want.
Could you use food as also a measurement as well? Like I'm going to eat maybe healthy for
Yeah,
five
but
days.
but 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 to eat healthy is not a result. And that's the difference of OKRs and everything else. With OKRs, it has to be a result. So what's the result you expect from eating healthy? So it's not what you're going to do. What you're going to do comes later. Before you decide what you're going to do, you have to decide how you're going to measure if you are near or coming closer to achieving your objectives.
So it's like shifting your mindset to getting, results ultimately.
Exactly.
I think, a lot of people just say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but they don't really focus on what they're trying to achieve. And I suppose that's the key difference, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So with OKRs, if my diet is not working, after 1 week, I weigh myself and I see that I haven't become slimmer. So I know that's not working for me. So I will try something else. Or if my routine of exercises are not producing the results that I want, for example, to increase the muscle mass from X% to Y%. So after a couple of weeks, I know that's not working. So I will change it. So I'm constantly checking if that's working or not. That's the main difference.
So how could we apply this to business or to entrepreneurship or to other projects that we may have?
Yeah, so it's the same principle because goals are goals. And if you have a goal, for example, to increase your sales or increase your market share, you have KPIs or key performance indicators for that. Like market share itself is a KPI, can be a KPI, or revenue, it can be another KPI. So you can use these KPIs to find out if you are coming closer to your objective or not. So let's suppose that your objective is to have a wonderful customer service. Okay, so that's your objective, to have the best customer service ever. So how do you measure customer satisfaction? Well, there is something called Net Promoter Score, or NPS, that evaluates how happy your customer is. So that can be one of your key results, or OKRs. That's the name, objectives and key results. And there are hundreds of different KPIs or indicators that you can include in your business OKRs.
Amazing. This is interesting stuff, and I think it sounds very effective as well. I think
it does.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay, 3 favorite self-help books that you would recommend.
Well, one of them I read a long time ago, and it's called The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. That's a great book. I learned some mental models that I use a lot today. There is a more recent book called Switch by Chip and Dan Heath, a great book that talks about human behavior, and I'm fascinated with human behavior. And another one related to human behavior as well is The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle, that shows why we learn to do what we do and how it became fixed in our brains. So these are my 3. It was very hard for me to choose these 3 because I read a lot. I love reading, and I read more than 20 books every year.
Sometimes wow! Oh my God!
So that's something that I'm passionate about.
Amazing. So I'm really interested in this concept of things being fixed in our brains, these habits. And you talk about this in your book, right? A very interesting concept about is it the amygdala, or?
Yeah, that's right.
Could you explain a little bit about that?
Okay. Well, I wrote a book about habits that became a bestseller. I haven't translated it into English. I launched it in Brazil, and it did very well there. It's doing very well there. But to create a new habit, you have to have a number of things in place. And one of them is repetition with a reward towards the end. Because when you do something and you have a good feeling after you do that, any kind of reward afterwards. And that's the trick that people who, for example, domesticate animals or train animals do. They give the dog a little biscuit.
Yeah,
So that's what creates a habit. It's a good feeling afterwards. So when you learn to drive, for example, you have to think about everything when you are learning. So how do this? How do I park? How do I change gears and so on? But then the repetition of that same movements and with the reward, that's the feeling of, wow, I did it. So that creates something in the brain connections, in the neuron connections, that works as a tape around the connection. So it isolates it. It's called the myelin layers. And so that makes it unconscious, and it makes it faster as well.
Wow.
It's a way that the brain uses to save energy,
Really?
Yeah,
This is
because
interesting.
the brain is not that big compared to the other parts of the body, but it consumes a lot of energy. About 20% of the total energy that our body consumes goes to the brain. So the brain has thousands, perhaps millions of very clever mechanisms or ways to save energy. And one of them is this one, is to create habits. So because the conscious thinking takes a lot of energy, it happens mostly in the cortex, the outside of the brain, the outside layer of the brain.
Yeah.
So by protecting these connections and making them unconscious, it means that the brain will do the same thing without spending a lot of energy. For example, you drive today, and you can be driving, talking to someone beside you, and observing something outside, all at the same time. And why? Because you don't have to think anymore when you're driving, because they became like a number of automatic actions and reactions called habits that your brain internalized and made unconscious. So you don't have to think, you don't have to be conscious about them. You noticed what you're doing, but you don't think about what you're doing.
This is so interesting. I had no idea about this.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Incredible.
I'm fascinated about all these things.
This is so cool. I wish we could like talk about it more, and but I think that if we did, we would be here forever, right?
Yeah, I would.
So, what advice would you give to stay motivated, to stay consistent, and maybe add a little bit about how we can kind of shift these habits as well, these stubborn habits that we can never get rid of, and they're kind of like hold us back. So, what advice would you give on that?
Okay, well, the first thing, you have to know your whys, and you must have strong whys. That's the first absolutely necessity for someone who wants to create a new habit or change a habit. Because to create a new habit, always it will require an extra effort. And we are not very good at self-control or for a long time. You can like be very motivated and enthusiastic about a new diet or a new habit like reading every day and so on. But everyone knows that that motivation doesn't last a long time. So you have to have more than motivation. You have to be inspired with your whys. There is a great book about that. It's one of my favorites as well, called Start With Why. It talks about exactly about that. You have to have strong whys, and that's the first one, first item to have new habits or change habits. Now the second one is create routines, like repetition of what you want to introduce in your life. And third, change your environment in your tribe. For example, if you want to spend less in your credit card or stopping spending what you don't have in your credit card, stop going to the shopping or to shopping places and so on with someone who spends a lot. Because we are strongly influenced by people around. It doesn't matter if you say, no, I'm not influenced by anyone, I'm very independent, and no, we are all strongly influenced by people around us. So if you spend time with people who have this or that habit, the chances of you getting the same habit increase a lot. That there's a lot of research to prove that. So if you want to drink less, for example, stop going to the pub with people who drink a lot, and that will help you as well.
Would you say that we are influenced as well, like influenced subconsciously too, not just?
Definitely, yes. We don't notice, but we are tribal people. We spent thousands of years living in tribes in the middle of the forest, and our connection with the rest of the tribe was a matter of survival. And so if I was rejected by the tribe, I would die. I would die of starvation, or I would be attacked by the beasts, or I would be taken by the other tribes and becoming their lunch, for example. So it was a matter of survival. And so we learned that to be accepted by the tribe is a matter of survival. That's why we fear social rejection so much. Our minds are still configured to live in tribes. So although if you hate me, it won't kill me. But in my brain, in my old brain, I still believe that your rejection can kill me, because if I'm rejected from the tribe, I will die.
It means
So
like you're isolated and alone. And do our brains actually adapt with time to this, or it's just hardwired for this?
it takes hundreds of generations for these changes to happen,
Wow.
and to live in safety in tribes with supermarkets nearby, it's very new to us. So that's why it's so hard to diet, for example. Our bodies still believe that if you say no to sugar, to calories, to anything that is full of calories, that's an act of suicide. You are committing suicide, because uh, you are preventing your body to get calories that may save your life after a few days if there is no more food. So we are
Oh,
configured to accumulate calories. That's why dieting is so hard. That's why going to the gym and going to a treadmill is something that your body hates. And so your amygdala that you mentioned before will try to convince you not to do that. Will try to sabotage you, because that's a suicide act as well, in the perspective of your old brain, your limbic system, your amygdalas that are part of there.
so this is much more profound than we can even imagine.
It is. It is. That's why that's why it's so hard, because it's inbuilt. It's wired in the way that our brains were made.
Wow, this is so fascinating. It's incredible. Um, I have a question for you though. Who
Okay.
would you say that you admire?
Well, I admire my dad. Passed away
So
about
sad
8 years
to
ago,
hear.
but I admired him a lot. I admire him. He was definitely my hero, and he still is, because he was a man of integrity, who worked very hard to raise his family, and he gave his family all that he could give and beyond what he ever had in his life. So he's definitely my number one hero. But I had a second dad as well. He was the dad of my best friend, who is
Ah,
still my best friend.
like rich dad, poor dad, a second dad.
Yes, exactly. I had like Robert Kiyosaki, I think that's his surname. Yeah, I had a poor dad and a rich dad. My dad was not that poor, but he was a normal man, like medium class. And I had this friend of mine whose dad was extremely rich, and he built an empire of businesses from nothing. And he was a very wise man, very humble, very simple. You would never believe that he had what he had, because he was so simple. And he had a very small car, very cheap car. And the way that he dressed himself, the house where he lived, he would never believe that he had what he had. And I learned a lot from him, and I still remember his teachings. And sometimes I go back to my memories and to revise
Yeah.
what I learned from him.
And what do you think was the secret to his success?
I believe that the secret to his success was to focus on purpose.
Mm.
And that's one of the lessons that I learned from my dad and from him as well. He never placed money as the most important thing in his life. The most important thing in his life was his contribution to the country, to the state, to the cities where he was, his businesses were. And he always focused on the most important needs of people as well. So all his businesses were around food, mostly, and things that were essential for living. So that is the main lesson I get from him. And for me, that's the secret of his business as well. Very humane, always trying to help people. He was a giver, always giving to people, giving money, giving help, giving advice. And so many people were helped by him and by his businesses.
Incredible. So do you think that right now in the climate that we are in, that a lot of people kind of forget that side of business, that humane side, that human touch?
Definitely, but I'm happy that we are returning back to the first principles in this sense, because my generation grew in a time of transition in many countries when people were starting to get more affluent, people were starting to get better off, basically. So families were raised with much more comfort. And from my generation onwards, we stopped living based on survival. And the newer generations now, from the millennials up to today, the teenagers and the young people in the marketplace now, they are more concerned about purpose than I was, for example, or my parents were. They are looking for jobs that will contribute to society, that will not damage the environment, that will offer equal opportunities. And so that's very, very positive.
Do you think that will continue with the generations? That yeah, the meaning, that purpose, and
yeah, of course we all always will be greedy. We will always be like moved by our survival instinct, or
yeah.
at least for some hundreds of generations ahead of us. So that won't change from night to day, because that's, as I said before, that's all inbuilt here in our configuration. But we have something that is very special. That's the sense of purpose that, as I was mentioned, the sense of legacy, the sense of contribution. And when we allow it to prevail, to be stronger than our greed or anything else, we do usually great things. So, and that's my work. That's how I work as well. And my work with OKRs is to connect purpose with the work of that we do day by day. That's what I do. I work a lot with governments, and my work with governments is to connect purpose, is to always remember them. Whatever you do, in everything that you are planning, in your strategy, in your tactics, always connect to the why, to the purpose, the people you are serving, the people you are protecting, the people you are improving their lives. So yeah, I believe that there is a lot of hope there.
That's incredible. I love it. Absolutely love it. Super valuable. Listening to you and talking to you. And I have one last question. Going
Okay.
back to work, going back to the OKRs, what's the most rewarding project that you've worked on, and why
Well,
is it
I
rewarding?
am still working on it. I am helping the government in Brazil, a sector of the government called the public sector, or actually the public ministry. And I started with one state, and then another state hired me, and then another one. So I'm now, in a couple of weeks, I'm doing something with the whole country, the public ministries in the whole country. And what they do, they protect the people. They are in charge of making sure that the rights of every citizen is respected, that the environment is protected, that the most vulnerable people in society, like the elderly, the children, and the rights of women, they are all preserved as well. And they have a lot of power to do it. So, and helping them to implement OKRs in every state. And the results we are getting is amazing. Sometimes, honestly, Abigail, I cry. I get very emotional I'm
Wow.
doing a check-in meetings, and I get emotional because I think, my goodness, thousands of people will be benefited by what they are doing here,
That's
just because they
phenomenal.
are organizing a bit better their priorities. So I'm so fortunate to be able to help in this way, this small way, but they are producing a lot
But
through
it links back to what you were talking about, integrity and purpose and all of those
purpose. That's
things
right.
come to play. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing, phenomenal work that you're doing. Well done for that.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
A round of applause.
Thank you.
Cool. So now we're going to go on to some idioms.
Okay.
I've specifically chosen some idioms to do with mindset because obviously
Okay.
working with the mind and habits and stuff. So
Okay.
the first idiom we have is to come a long way.
Ah.
Describe the meaning.
To make come a long way. Well, I have been here in the UK for a long time now, so to come a long way, it means that I managed to overcome lots of obstacles, and after a long time, I finally reached what I wanted.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. And what about to hit the jackpot?
that's something that the first time I heard this expression, I thought, jackpot is it? What's the jackpot? What is it? And so and it's related to the first one as well, isn't it? In
Yeah.
some ways, it's similar because that means that finally you got what you expected. Finally, you hit something that brought you a lot of rewards.
Yes.
You made a lot of money, or you finally built what you want to build, the business that you want, and so on. So,
Yes.
is it right?
Well, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Reach all the opportunities that you've
Uh-huh.
wanted, and yeah, to hit the jackpot. So to have great or unexpected success,
Mm-hmm.
especially in making a lot of money quickly, to find exactly what you desired. And that's exactly what you said. So perfect. Next one, to kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah. That's a very. It comes from a time when you were allowed to kill birds, wasn't it? That was my
Put it like
childhood. Shame. I was a hunter. What a nonsense.
that.
Yeah, but it means that somehow you managed to, like, by throwing one stone, it hit two birds at the same time. So it means that by doing one action, you achieved two goals, two
Yes.
objectives.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I think it's the same. Is it the same in Portuguese?
It is, yeah.
And same in Spanish too, I think. So.
Uh-huh.
And last one, to make a comeback. No, sorry, we have two more. So to live up to your expectations.
Yeah, well, that's very important, isn't it? Because we all build these expectations about ourselves, and other people build expectations about us as well. And to live up to your expectations, it is to reach those levels that were expected, or to reach those goals, or to be as good as
Yeah.
expected, isn't it?
Hit the nail on the head.
Great.
And then we have to make a comeback.
Well, it means that perhaps you were defeated in the first time you did something, but like Rumble, yeah, you came back and you won. You overcame.
Yeah, so to make a comeback, achieve success after retirement or failure. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Spot
yeah.
on. Fantastic. So those are our idioms. We had to come a long way, which is to make a lot of progress, to hit the jackpot, to have great or unexpected success, to kill two birds with one stone, is to solve two problems with one action or solution, to live up to your expectations is for something to be as good as you expected or hoped for. And lastly, to make a comeback is to achieve success after retirement or failure. Fantastic. And now it's time for our game. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm not good at games, so games. I hope I'll be okay.
Unfortunately, we don't have any sound effects, so I'll just have to do them manually, unfortunately. But for
Okay.
those of you who've never heard of Family Fortunes, it's a popular television program in the UK. 100 people were asked a question, and your job is to guess what the top answer would be. You have 3 tries
Hmm.
to get the top answer or to get some of the tries in the list.
Hmm.
If you
Okay.
get the right answer, you'll hear ding.
Okay.
And if you don't get the right answer, you'll hear uh. So, shall we start?
Okay.
So, the first one we have is name famous rivalries between brands. Famous
Uh,
rivalries.
A- Apple and Microsoft.
Ding. Third answer.
Hmm. Um, Sainsbury's and Waitrose.
Uh-uh.
No. Google and Yahoo. Oh,
Uh-uh.
that's
So,
my third one.
so the top answer is Coke versus Pepsi.
Oh, oh yeah, of course.
McDonald's versus Burger King. So 38 people said Coke and Pepsi.
Okay.
26 people said McDonald's and Burger King. 23 people said Microsoft and Apple. And 12 people said Marvel and DC.
Well,
Okay, so next question.
I don't drink soft drinks, so I would never say Coke. I would not remember Coke and Pepsi.
Me neither, actually. Actually, no. So, no fizzy drinks.
No.
We want to keep our teeth in our mouths, right?
Well, and my belly as well under control.
So the next one we have is name things that people lie about on their CV.
I went to Harvard University. Well, I believe that they exaggerate in the results that they got in their previous jobs. Sometimes they lie about the schools or universities that they attended or the scores that they had there.
Perfect. You got most of them. So the first one, you got the top answer, which is they lie about their education, right?
Yeah.
Second
Uh-huh.
one is the job title.
Yeah.
Third one is the length of time they worked at a job or their skills and experience.
Yeah.
So next one, what might someone ride their bike? Sorry, why might someone ride their bike to work?
Well, I believe that first of all, with the fuel prices as they are, I would reckon that is to save money, but also to improve their health and also to avoid traffic.
Yeah, so you got the second answer to exercise. Third one I'll give you is to save money on petrol. And
Mm-hmm.
the third one is environment.
Oh, of
Top
course,
one,
yeah.
what about the top one was to not have a car?
Ah, good. Yeah, the expenses and all the work that to have a car represents.
Yes. Okay, next one. I'm going to do 2 more. So, name a language that makes anything sound sexy.
Italian, definitely.
Second
For me,
answer.
for me.
Yeah.
I love Italian. I don't speak Italian, but I love it. For me, it sounds so sexy, so
It
nice.
really does sound so romantic, right?
Yeah.
Just elegant, and yeah,
Uh-huh.
I agree with that. But it's not the top answer, actually.
No,
The
really.
second.
Well, Portuguese, probably not.
Portuguese is not on the list.
Spanish.
Third on the list.
Uh,
We've got one more try.
okay. Well, I'll try something completely weird now, like
Not
for me.
not
Uh,
too far. Don't go too far out because it's still in the same region.
okay, okay. So French.
Perfect. That was a good one.
Ah, I got it. Yeah, of course. I should have, well, the Paris Tower, so I should remember it.
So yeah, 40 people said French. Can you imagine? 40 people said French.
Wow.
21 said Italian. 11 said Spanish, and 10 said English or British.
No, I disagree. I think that Italian is much more it's much sexier than than French.
I kind of agree, actually. Italian really it really has a nice kind of, I don't know, even when they're shouting, it sounds beautiful.
It does.
Right? I think it's the last syllable when they're like chiama me, like the me maybe makes it sound more kind of, I don't know, exotic, but it
Yeah,
sounds beautiful.
it does.
Fantastic. Well, it's been amazing, Marcos, having you on the podcast today. We've unfortunately come to the end. I've
We
enjoyed it
loved it.
so much information, so much value, so much knowledge. And yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks for inviting me.
So we'll see you soon.
See you soon. All the best.